Hello and welcome to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and the legendary Neurotoxin and a special guest. Flanker, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I didn't expect it to be that fast, but miracles sometimes happen.
Yeah, we kind of quickly. Yeah, well, Diggs, you can talk about this. You put this together, so.
I didn't do anything. We've just been talking on the forums, and he was like, "I'd love to talk about this on a stream sometime," and I was like, "We'd love to have you." And then This was the time we could fit him in. Otherwise, we'd have to wait until after Alpha 2. And Flanker's like, "I'm going to be playing the game after that. I'm not going to have time to do a stream after Alpha 2 opens." So, yeah.
True.
It's very true.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, welcome aboard. We have hour and a half to kind of chat. So we have gotten to know you fairly well through the creators Discord. But for those of you who do not, or for our viewers that do not know you, just like a real quick rundown, kind of who you are, your interest in Ashes of Creation.
Sure. So basically, I'm one of the Ashes of Creation YouTube content creators, and now I'm streaming as well. I also make content on TikTok, and previously I used to be a New World content creator because it was really easy to run out of content in New World. So I found a way to entertain myself, and in general, when it comes to MMOs, I used to play Lineage 2 for probably more than 12 years. I've lost count, to be honest. And also I played New World, and now, as long as I'm very picky and it's very hard for me to actually find a game, especially an MMO, now Ashes of Creation caught my attention, and here I am.
How long ago did Ashes of Creation catch your attention?
Approximately like 4 years ago or so. Around that.
So before 2020. Before 2020.
I would say so. Yeah, around that. Like 3 to 4 years, maybe a bit more than that. I don't really remember, to be honest.
Yeah.
So nothing crazy, like 7 years.
I wish it was the case, but unfortunately it's not the case because I gladly participate in Alpha 1, but that's something I missed. So I'm like,
I gotta tell you, sometimes you don't wish it was 7 years, but anyway.
I know. Who knows? Maybe you don't know me that well. Maybe I enjoy suffering. Who knows?
We're gonna be a decade in before we get an official launch. That's crazy, man. 10 years.
Yeah, that's like, what, 30% of my life? Or so? That's a lot. That's...
Yeah. And considering that we thought it would be like 3 years, 3 or 4, 3 years, I guess.
2020.
Wow. I mean, that's what we were told.
Yeah.
Didn't seem possible even then, but,
True.
Well, you two get, I think, get kind of back and forth on the forums, so I don't know if there's anything we want to bring from there to here. Little debate, anything?
We can talk about whatever Flanker wants to talk about.
I mean, you are the host guy, so I'll let you decide. But yeah,
no, you're the guests. We let the guests.
No, yeah.
Well, give me a little bit of an update. You guys talk on the forums a lot. What are the subjects in particular that you're talking about?
So one of the most heated debates, let's put it that way, was regarding the leveling speed in Ashes of Creation. So according to Wiki and according to Steven, it's expected to be like 45 days, 4 to 6 hours a day, right, of playing. So it's like 225 hours.
Well, that's leveling to Adventurer Max specifically. There's many types of leveling in Ashes. So
correct.
Leveling the Adventure Path is 225 hours.
Correct. And my point is that it should be significantly longer, at least like 2-3 times to begin with, for a long list of reasons that I've mentioned in my post, and I actually made a video about that as well. A pretty long one, trying to share my concerns, because I think that's crucial when it comes to a game that we are waiting for many years. It would be a shame to play it for 2 months and then realize oh, okay, that's it. Secondly, also
But
taking...
that's not it. But that's not it. That's just the adventurer path.
Exactly.
So there's many other hours to play with the other progression paths.
Correct, but
there's plenty of other stuff to do. So that's not an issue.
Correct.
That's
but
not why
that's
you
not the
increase that.
That's not the main point. It's just one of the points. And secondly,
it's the big point.
Maybe a big one, but there are plenty of others that are bigger in my opinion. So another one is another reason. Like, I'll just pick the most important ones in my opinion, because if I'll start talking about all of them, we're gonna be sitting here till the official release. Let's put it that way. So the second one is the monetization model of a game. As far as we know, games, especially MMOs, can't really survive for a long period of time if they don't have the funds, right? And taking into account the monetization model of Ashes of Creation, which is basically subscription and cosmetics with no box cost and like no pay to win, it becomes crucial to prioritize player retention and basically player, I don't know what's the right word for it, like player longevity, basically the amount of time that player spends in game in general. So if that's like 2 months or 4 months or a year, etc. And in general, like the first question that I ask people who want to like talk about it is, do you want Ashes of Creation to be a game that you play for like a couple of months and then just go back to your beloved Fortnite, or you want this to be a game that captivates you for years? That's the point.
Yes, and so how do you captivate them? You captivate them by giving them many progression paths instead of just one, and many other things to do besides those progression paths, which is what Ashes has done. So you don't do that by artificially extending one progression path. Ashes is alleviating that problem by giving multiple progression paths that will each give you hours and hours and hours, in addition to nodes, which is going to give you other content, in addition to sieges, in addition to caravans, in addition to PvP. So you have many different ways of keeping the players there other than artificially extending the time it takes to level in one progression path, which is going to cause people to leave.
I agree, but I don't really agree with the part that it will make players leave, and we'll get to the part why. But once again, here's the thing that it's important to highlight.
I got a question to ask. The number that they generated for their estimate, is that based on the most efficient gameplay, or is that based on average gameplay? Because I tell you, there's a lot of ways for people to waste time and not actually be making any progress.
That's right. That's the other thing. If you want to extend the time, players have that option by focusing on the other progression paths before they hit max adventurer level. So players already have the ability to do that with the Ashes design. If you don't want to do it in 225 hours, you want to do other stuff and extend that to 450 or probably 600 or 700 or 800, you can do that.
That is correct, and I don't argue with that. But the thing is, first of all, it doesn't matter how much content and how many progression paths you put in the game. It's never enough, because first of all, some people will prioritize.
It's never enough for what?
It's never enough in general. Period. Let's put it that way, because sooner or later.
It's never enough for. Go ahead.
Sooner or later, people will still run out of things to do. That's the first thing. Secondly, in a game like Ashes, where that has vertical progression, that's gonna be like, what's the correct idiom for that? Like a carrot on the stick for many people, whether they admit it or not, whether they want it or not, whether they like it or not. That's the second thing.
Yeah, but you have at least 5 paths with vertical progression.
Exactly, and I've also made a video.
How long is How long is it gonna take to finish all of them?
I mean,
how long will it take?
Probably a decent amount of time, but not everyone will choose to, do everything in the game. There are certain paths that certain players will not like. So, for example, someone likes economy, it's going to be their loop. Someone likes crafting, it's going to be their loop. Someone likes PvP, it's going to be their loop, and they will focus on
I'm
PvP.
talking about the social progression, racial progression,
Yep.
religion progression,
Exactly.
all of those.
But out of
Yeah.
all pool of players, let's take all players as 100%. How many of them will actually do all of them?
You don't have to do all of them. You just
Exactly.
have to extend so that it's more than 225. So if you do 2, that's 450. If you do 3, that's
Not
what
first of all, it's not the it's inaccurate, and let me highlight what exactly I think is inaccurate. First of all, we know about leveling progression that it takes 225 hours. Other progression paths do not necessarily take that much time.
for the adventurer path.
Yes, but we can't know if a religious progression path would take the same amount of time, and I would probably assume it's not, because otherwise it would be like too long for some, secondary progression path.
Why is it too long?
I mean, for an average player, it would be too long if there are people who are complaining
too long
that.
For what?
What do you mean too long for what?
I don't understand what you mean by too long for what.
Okay, you make an assumption that other progression paths, such as whatever, insert any, would take the same amount of time as leveling, which is approximately 225 hours. You make that assumption based on what exactly?
Sure. No, you haven't answered my question first. Too long for what?
Can you rephrase your question, please, so that I can answer?
You said that for people, progressing the religion path or progressing the racial path, if that took 225 hours, it would be too long. And I'm saying too long for what?
Too long in general, and I say that taken into account.
I don't know what that means. What does general mean?
I will explain.
Why is it too long?
I will explain that. So if you just kind of disappeared. But
yeah,
okay.
my light went out.
You
No
ghosted, man.
So taking into account that there are people who say that leveling, like adventure paths, taking 225 hours is long, that allows me to make an assumption that progression path, like secondary progression path, any of them, that's gonna take 225 hours, is also gonna be long for them. Do you see the...
What does long mean? So what does too long mean?
Too long means people would have
hours.
But people would have to invest more time than they would prefer in order to follow that progression path and to reach the goal that they want to reach.
What's the goal that they're trying to reach?
It's going to be different for all people. Just like I said, you pointed out that there are many progression paths, which is true, but not all players. I guess you won't probably argue with that not all players will choose to progress in to use all those progression paths. Some of them will choose 1 out of 5. Some of them will choose 3 out of 5. And some of them will, choose 5 out of 5. And they will enjoy all parts of content, but that's not going to be everyone. It's not going to be 100% of players. Maybe we don't know that. Maybe 20%, maybe 50%.
You only need to have enough time for the devs to drop an update, right? And they're planning to do an update in 3 months, 3 to 4 months. They're planning to have seasonal content. But even then, you still have other stuff to do, which is nodes and sieges and a whole bunch of other stuff to do after you reach 225 hours of seasonal adventurer path. The game does not end when you reach your max adventure level.
Correct. So
there's plenty of other stuff to do.
1 second. I'll make a note so that I don't forget what to say. Okay, I already forgot the second node, which was important. You only
need enough time. You only need to occupy the players until the devs are able to drop new content, which these days is happening every 3 to 4 months.
Correct. So 2 points here. I remember now. First of all, it's what the Intrepid's plan is, to drop content and updates with every 3 months. But we understand, and we've seen that not everything may go according to plan. That's the first thing, correct? Would you agree with that?
Sure.
Good. And the second thing is there are many possibilities for players when it comes to, various content, right? But not all content will be available to them. What I mean by that is the eternal debate about hardcore and casual players. So sieges may not be available to all players. World bosses...
Sieges are available to all players. Why would they not be?
Theoretically, yes. Practically, it may not necessarily be the case.
What would stop them? What would stop them?
The same thing that stopped people from participating in wars in New World. Take a look at New World, for example. It's a perfect example, and I used that in the forum thread. It was really easy. It still takes like a couple of days to reach the max level. Anyone can do that. It's very simple. But do those players who reach level 65, or it's now 65 if I recall correctly, have any chance to participate in wars? No, none.
Yes.
Zero.
Yes.
Zero.
Yes. What? What are you talking about?
Zero. Absolutely zero.
You have to explain that. You're saying it, asserting it, but it's not true because I've done it before level 60.
I've done it on all levels as well because I was like a higher level.
And it's not zero.
Yeah,
it was not zero.
It was on lunch. It was first days on lunch. Maybe a week after the lunch, if you're not level 60, you won't get there. If you join now...
What do you mean you won't get there?
Because there are players who are level 60 and you are level 42 and you won't get there. But then...
What do you mean you won't get there? What does that mean?
Because a person, a guild leader who is in charge of making a list of players who will participate in war will simply not take you because they're better candidates. The roster is picked manually. It's not automatic. And you can, if you want, I can send you links to Discord, to Reddit posts where people on Reddit complain about that, about the fact that wars and invasions that are basically endgame content is gate-capped. There is zero chance for an average player, for a casual player, to get there because there will be people who already participated in hundreds of wars. They have more experience, they have better gear, and it doesn't matter whether you reach a level cap or not because they will just choose someone that they know who have experience, better equipment, better gear, and better skills when it comes to wars. That's it. Simple as that.
Because so you're saying in New World, if you want to do guild wars specifically, I'm not even sure what you mean by that because
it's basically sieges. It's basically sieges, wars for capturing, for taking the control over a node. Let's put it that way.
Because I'm pretty sure I jump into them without belonging to a guild.
You can be a player without a guild, but the guild leader still chooses the best possible candidates. I know that for a fact because...
But wait. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about whether or not you can participate. So what you were saying was zero chance to participate, and I'm saying that I'm pretty sure I've participated without being part of a guild.
Exactly. So did I, but it's not the point. The point is that...
It is the point because you said there's zero chance to participate.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not zero chance to participate because I've participated without being part of the guild. So it's not zero. I participated. I played first couple of months without being a member of a guild, and I participated in all wars. Why? Because they knew that this is Flanker. They knew that Flanker was among the first who reached level 60. They know the Flanker comes and gives the food buffs to all other players because he has the recipes for the food that were rare. And they know that Flanker already has experience when it comes to wars. I think we're talking about two different things. That's one thing.
Okay, specify what you're talking about.
Because the PvP that I've participated in, I can participate without nobody has to let me into them.
Exactly. When it comes to PvP.
Yeah, you're talking about two different things.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to PvP, yeah. When it comes to wars, it's not. Because the roster is being, every single person that gets in the roster of, list of people who participate in wars is being manually picked by the guild leader. It can be a member of your guild, and it can be a person of without a guild. It can be even a person from a third faction because we did that. But obviously it can't be a player of the faction that you're fighting against. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is how it works. I can show you multiple threads on Reddit where people complain about it. They ask questions like, is it still like 0 chance to participate? Yes, it's still 0 chance, because why would they pick someone who they don't know, who plays New World for like, I don't know, 200 hours, when they have
Yeah.
people who play, who already have like 3,000 hours and they've been in like 150 wars and they know everything. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
So
And this all goes...
yeah, there's one. Wait. So what you're saying is there's one activity where you're kept out by the guild leaders, right? That's what you're saying. There's one activity.
That's the biggest one.
Same
Why
thing.
is it the biggest one?
Same.
That's not the biggest one. That's not the biggest thing to do in New World.
It's not the, well, according to you probably, but according to the design as well, ruling and controlling the territories is one of the key things. It's one of the end game loops, and same kind of applies to invasions, but invasions are kind of like, you know, not that important, like compared to wars. But when it comes to wars, like, no, it's end game content. It's something that...
I don't know. End game for me is Battle Pass. That's
Well,
what I play.
yeah.
That's what keeps me coming back.
That's the
don't have that
point,
now.
because your perception is based on your like preferences when it comes to content, and it can be different.
As are yours. As are yours.
Yeah, but point out what have I said about New World Wars that is not actual true.
Yeah. That's one activity, and then there's bunches of activities. Like you said, not everybody is going to participate in all this stuff. Not everybody's going to want to participate in all this stuff.
Exactly.
And so one of the ways that New World retains their players is through seasonal updates and the Battle Pass.
Retains is a loud word to use here, but once again, you are kind of confirming my point, the previous point, that when I said that there is a number of activities in Ashes of Creation, and not all players will participate in all of those activities, because there will be some that they don't like, and there also will be some activities that they have no access to, because it is how it is in a MMO that have a competitive element, especially an MMO with open world PvP.
Well, it's not that they don't have access. What you're saying is that some people will gatekeep them out.
Exactly.
That's the same for running dungeons and raids.
Correct, and as a result,
Sure.
they won't have access. I mean, you can phrase it in a different way, but the
I
outcome will not change.
You won't have access to participate in those groups.
Come again?
You won't have. You can be gate kept out of participating in particular groups. Sure.
Yep,
No matter what level, that happens at any level.
exactly. That's the point. So,
It's not the point. How can that be the point?
what do you mean?
You can be gate kept out of content by anybody who's the leader of a group. That has nothing to do with leveling or speed of leveling.
No, you can be gatecapped from a certain content by the enemy guild. If there is a
By
world
guild,
boss,
but that's not by the game.
not by the game, of course.
Sure. Gamers are assholes. I agree.
It's not assholes,
That has
it's
nothing to do-
competition.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're assholes because of competition.
No,
That's my point.
being an
That's
asshole...
why I said gamers and not players.
I would call someone an asshole if he actually actively grieves someone. That would be an asshole behavior. But competing for a limited valuable resources or access to limited world bosses, it's not being an asshole. It's a competition. And
It
this,
is for RPGs.
I mean,
So I also think a big part of what Flanker's trying to say, and I agree with, and NK and chat also has mentioned this. We had a little back and forth. A lot of these things that we would, you kind of mentioned as in game that other players get to do once they reach their level. I actually think a lot of these they're not going to get a chance to do, or they're going to have minimal chances to do.
yep.
Most of these node wars,
World bosses.
not node war. Yes, world bosses, siege wars, guild, the big guild castle wars, owning freeholds, everything that comes with that. There's actually a lot of systems here that are going to be very specifically for a small group of people. That's not to say that we won't, be completely shut out. But I think we have to realize that the majority of us are not going to be using these systems all the time. We just won't have access to them.
It's not
And
It's not that
So-
you won't have access. It will just require more time and effort and maybe creativity to have a chance to participate in them, because that's the same thing that I did in New World, for example. I didn't join, like, there were 2 big guilds in New World, and I didn't want to join any of them, not because they were bad. I had friends in both of them, but because I wanted to be known as not a member of this guild, I wanted to be known as flanker. So how do you deal with that? Because they will prioritize their own members first, right? You need to become useful for them, and I found a way, because I maxed out all my trade skills. I wasn't the first in the game, but I was definitely the first on my server, and maybe like in top 3, top 5 in the game. I did that solo, and now people know, like, oh, if I want to craft something, like literally anything, I can go to flanker, and he can do that. And that's how you gain reputation. And that's the reason, like, when you're useful, when you have experience, people won't have any problem with inviting you, because they know that they want to have you. So you need to find a way to achieve that. And especially in MMOs and in like competitive MMOs where people are actually fighting to have access to a certain content, you pretty much almost in all cases have an opportunity to get access to that content or to achieve what you want one way or another. But many people, and sorry, it may be a hot take and I might disappoint someone, but I mean, I don't mind being a person who says the harsh truth, but sometimes instead of using this thing not only for eating inside it, but also for thinking, and the last time I checked, thinking was still free and there were no taxes imposed on that, instead of actually thinking and finding ways, being creative, and putting some time and efforts, people just immediately switch to whining and complaining that life is not fair. Well, duh.
Aren't you whining and complaining about the leveling speed?
No, that's called making a suggestion.
What's the difference?
The difference is I point out what I see, what I think a problem is, and I provide explanation why I think that is the problem.
Don't other people do the same thing?
Usually they miss one of those parts that I'm about to say now. So I point out what the problem is. I provide an explanation why I think why that is a problem. I provide data and statistics, the best that I can find, to point out that this is an actual issue and here is what happened in similar games and which patterns can you notice. And then I make a suggestion. This is how making a proper suggestion, in my opinion, works. There is no complaining, there is no whining, because I'm offering a solution. That's the difference. And what is an example of whining and complaining is writing something like, oh, this game sucks. Oh, this game is dead on arrival. Oh, this, like, I've seen it in a different game. It was better. Fuck you, Ashes, you know? Or something like that. That is whining. And that is a suggestion. See the difference?
Not really, but okay.
I do.
I think most people are offering suggestions as well.
Yeah, I like those suggestions. Like, okay, here are my suggestions for a summoner and rogue archetype that we will see in like 2 years at best. Like that kind of suggestions.
This is making me have a very interesting, NK and I are chatting in chat.
Yeah, and just sorry to everyone, I'm not looking at chat, I'm focused on the conversation, so my apologies to everyone.
I'll bring it up when things come, because this is actually taking me in an interesting part of my brain, because we've talked about this before, the idea that there's going to be quite a bit that most of the casual people that play are not going to get to experience. I didn't really extend that in my head to retention. That starts to make me really wonder about retention of players long term. If they're not able to do some of these things, I hadn't really gone down that road in my head.
Exactly, and the important.
Well, if you can't level at a reasonable pace, you're going to leave the game anyway. So.
I would disagree with that, but before that, I will add to what Phantomax said.
I did it all the time, and people did it all the time. That's why they made leveling so fast, is because hell levels were a thing, and when people hit hell levels, they left the game, and then they would return after they nerfed them.
So
that's why people were finally.
Like they did
that's
not
why
leave.
people were. Yeah, they did. That's
they had
why
stuff to
they
do.
nerfed them.
The
I don't
key
know what
here.
stuff to do. It's not about stuff to do. It's
Yeah,
about
it is.
getting the. It's about getting to the. No, it's not. It's about getting to the
Yeah, it
next
is.
level. No, it's
EverQuest
not.
worked because you had raids from levels 25 on up to 60. You had
Yeah,
stuff to do.
if that was the case, then they would not have nerfed the hell levels.
Content does not. Well, EverQuest changed because it had to over 25, 30 years.
That was. It didn't
Content-
take 25 years for. It didn't take 25 years for them to nerf hell levels.
All right.
So, 2 points that I wanted to add. First one is about what Fentimax, did I pronounce that right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I have 100 different variations. So
Okay,
you're
yeah.
good.
So, look, I would absolutely have zero problems with the current state of affairs if Ashes had a box cost and a cosmetic shop. I wouldn't say a word. Why? Because it would follow then the unfortunate way of New World. And what I'm trying to say is this. New World has a box cost and also some cosmetics in the story. So no pay to win, nothing like that. When they have a box cost, developers do not care whether you play for 10 hours or anything like, what's the time for refund on Steam? Like 2 hours? So they don't care if you play 3 hours or 3 years. Why? Because they already got their money. And yeah, there is a chance but that you will buy some skins in New World. Or maybe you won't. So if you leave, they already got their money and they don't care. They'll say like, okay, fuck him, we didn't like that guy anyway, right? So that one thing forces them, because as long as as New World is made by a studio and the primary goal of a studio is to make money, that alone basically forces them to switch from player retention to new player acquisition, because the more people buy the game, the more money they get. And if so happens that some of them will stay for a long enough time, or they just like buying cosmetics and they end up buying cosmetics, good. If not, doesn't matter. They're not interested in that. On the other hand, when it comes to a game like Ashes, they need to do everything. And I heard Steven mentioning that on one interview, and I would expect them to know that, but I'm glad that I heard it, that they're like, okay, yeah, we need to actually focus on basically keeping the players in game, like by whatever means we can. And I'm like, good point, because that's exactly how it's supposed to work. And one of those important, like one of the ways that can be done is by making leveling longer, because in a game with a vertical progression, it doesn't matter if you're a casual player, it doesn't matter if you're a hardcore player. If the number near your nickname is not 50, that will be a carrot on the stick that will force you, whether you want it or not, to move forward. And when it comes to what Dick said,
in an RPG, what entices people to move closer or to 50 is the rewards that you get for the next level. It has nothing to do with 50. It has to do with getting to the next level in a reasonable amount of time, and that's hours, not days.
Correct, but those two things are not mutually exclusive. One does not exclude the other.
Yeah, they do.
No, they are not, because the example of such person is sitting right in front of you now, and that's me. And I'm pretty sure that I'm not unique. If you take, I don't know, like
You seem to be unique. You've named 2 MMOs that you've played: Lineage 2 and New World.
Yeah.
That seems to be your reference point. That's not a lot of MMORPGs.
That's not a lot, but it doesn't really matter.
It does matter.
And the second thing that I wanted to point,
you don't have a lot of experience with MMORPGs.
I have like 15 years of experience with MMORPG, but I played 2, not many.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah. So the thing is,
you know what you have the understanding of one target audience for one MMORPG and not a variety.
But I've played the both extremes, because Lineage 2 was extremely hardcore game, and New World was extremely easy game. It was extremely casual.
But I will concede that for Lineage 2 players, longer leveling, slower leveling speed is something that they would enjoy. I agree with that.
It's not that we would enjoy, not all of them. The point is why Lineage 2 players don't mind longer leveling, mostly, is because we know that longer leveling, despite the fact that Lineage 2 had significantly less activities and variety of things you can do, can still be enjoyable and extremely rewarding. We'll get back to that in a second, but you keep referring to you referred to a case where you left the game because of long leveling, and so did
I always
a
leave the game
couple,
for long leveling.
and so
Yeah.
did a couple of people that you knew.
Who
They
don't
did the
play
same.
Lineage 2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, don't you think, just for a moment, that your opinion is shaped mostly or purely on your personal experience?
Having played numerous MMORPGs, yes, I know why I play those RPGs, and that's class leveling, and that has to do with the time it takes to get to the next level
Exactly.
and get the awards associated with the next level. And there's nothing that you can do to make that more fun. That's just tedious, arbitrary gatekeeping.
Well, I
why would
wouldn't
I
call
play a
it
game that has that
gatekeeping.
gatekeeping?
You're not
It is
gatecapped.
gatekeeping.
You're not.
No, you are gatekept. How are you not gatekept if you can't get to the next level?
You can. You just need to put time and effort that you apparently,
You
for
just
your
need to
own
put
personal
time.
preferences, you don't want to put in.
Arbitrary time. That is gatekeeping. That is gatekeeping.
Can you define gatekeeping?
Gatekeeping is keeping you away from the goals that you're trying to attain.
So
Yeah, but
basically,
you're not being kept away. You're just slowed down.
yeah.
That's what we're
But
saying.
I would say,
Yeah, that's arbitrarily for
gatekeeping.
no reason. That is gatekeeping.
No, it's not.
Of course it is.
Gatekeeping,
Your
you
time
couldn't
is
get through.
gated.
Literally gatekeeping.
You can't
There's
get
a
there
gate saying
because-
you can't get past me. Here, it's not that you
Yeah.
can't get past; it's that the doors are swinging open slower.
yeah, exactly.
No. The doors, I don't even know how you can talk about doors that take
I need a
hours
dictionary.
to
Let
open.
me get a dictionary.
Yeah, I think
The
Diggs, you're
act of
talking
controlling
about
access to resources. You're controlling the access to a resource, and
Yes.
it's being controlled through time. That's my point.
it's you're saying that the gating mechanic for progression is the investment of time. Is that correct?
Especially when you do it arbitrarily, when the only reason to do so is because you want it to be a long experience, especially to try and extend the time until you get to end game.
Okay. We can extend this point a little bit by saying this. While what you say, even though I disagree with your definition of gatekeeping, but okay, let's skip that part. Even though what you say may be true when applying to other games, and I would say it's kind of true even if you say that about Lineage, but still, the developers didn't put like enough options to, in terms of variety of different activities that players can do. But that issue was neutralized because they created an environment where people could create content for another people, and like such as drama on some farming spots, PvP, PK, politics, etc. So that was kind of neutralized. So the point that
So
I'm
that you do all the stuff that you would not be doing in an RPG. That's for a PvP game rather than for an RPG game.
It's not the fact that Lineage 2 had PvP doesn't make it a PvP game, because
If you're saying that the reason that it was okay to level slower is because of good PvP, that makes it more of a PvP game. You're weakening the RPG aspects and you're prolonging the time to get your dopamine rush from getting to the next level through your RPG activities by engaging in more PvP. So it's because it's a PvP game.
No, first of all, that's not what I said. And the point that I was trying to make is the fact that Lineage 2 had PvP and open world PvP doesn't make it a PvP game. Why? Because on average server, I'm not even taking a low rate server, 90% of the time, if not 95% of time that you spend in game, you are farming mobs. And those breaks, when someone comes to your spot and starts contesting it, or some drama is going on, is those 5-10% were enough to make all that process significantly less monotonous. That's the first point. Secondly, I need to make more notes because I just keep forgetting what. That's the first thing. So the point that I was trying to make, you keep talking about the fact that leveling in Ashes is okay. It doesn't need to be longer because it may get boring. Correct, right? That's the point that you made. Just so that we're talking about the same thing.
It will be boring when you're using the same few abilities and skills and stats that you have, and you're just being arbitrarily gate kept from getting to the next level through time.
The requirement to put some time and effort to progress to next level, I would still say it's not gatekeeping. It's just
it shouldn't take a long time. If you're prolonging the time just to prolong the time, that's a problem.
No, you're not prolonging the time just to prolong the time, because the thing that you completely take out of equation or not take into account is first of all, there are various activities that can give you XP in Ashes. It's not just killing mobs. It's killing mobs, it's quests, it's gathering, it's events, etc., etc. It's not one thing. You're not being gate capped, and commissions and stuff like that, right? So you can choose any. If you don't like grinding mobs, fine, go do commissions.
You're being gate capped by the time. It doesn't matter. You're saying it's going to take forever to get there, and you're going to take forever. I'm going to be stuck 4 hours with the same limited scope of skills and abilities and stats.
Okay,
you're just saying prolong that until I'll just add hours to that.
Have you watched the developers' live streams? Sure. I assume you do. Okay. Have you watched the levels that their characters were? Usually it's 10, 15, 20, right? Is that correct?
And?
Okay. Did you see how many abilities did they have at those levels?
Do you think that that's reminiscent of what we're going to have?
I'm addressing the point that you just made. I don't like...
You aren't really addressing the point, because the whole point of that is to showcase the abilities that they have.
Exactly.
Right?
But you can use that information that you get and apply to other things, including the point that you just made. And the point that you just made was, I don't like long leveling because I don't like using the same 3 abilities that I have, because I want more abilities.
I didn't say 3.
Yes, you didn't say 3, but I mean the point is kind of like that.
No, it's not like that.
I mean, we will be able to we'll have that recording. We will be able to go back and listen to that, because internet never forgets. So the point that I'm trying to make is that you won't be stuck for a month with 3 skills. If you take a look at their level 10 characters,
it's not going to be 3 skills. It's going to be whatever that is. Those skills that you have at 25. Why am I going to be stuck there for 16 hours or 20 hours or whatever it would be to get to level 26 or 27?
Exactly. But what's even the point of you worrying about it if on one of the streams you openly said that you have no desire to progress in game whatsoever when it comes to leveling and when it comes to PvP?
Yeah, we're talking about me playing this game. I'm not talking about whether or not I'm playing the game. I'm talking about the problem, the objective problem, not the subjective problem. I'm talking about the objective problem is being stuck for that many hours.
Define objective and subjective.
I mean, right, I'm not really playing Ashes, right? I'm only in there to socialize with people, so it's not about my progression desires for Ashes.
Exactly.
I'm not planning to progress.
So
I'm not talking about this in terms of me. I'm talking about the objective problem with it.
Okay, define objective and subjective. What's the difference between them? What
objectively, the problem is that for RPGs, the primary point of an RPG is to move from class level to class level, right? You have the hero's journey. You start as a peon and you become a demigod. and you move from class level to class level, and you gain more abilities and more skills and higher stats.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's the foundation of RPGs. So if you're just prolonging that just for the sake of prolonging it for some arbitrary reason, that's going to cause people who want to do that to not want to play the game.
Why?
If what you want to do is if what you want is a MMO PvP game, then sure, introduce more PvP and people will be happy PvP. But the people who want to play an RPG and progress from class level to class level are going to want to do that in a reasonable amount of time.
Okay, how would you address that? Like, first of all, it looks like we have a second definition that we disagree on, which is objective. But, okay, how would you address then all millions of people and probably a 6-digit number of players to this day who still play Lineage 2, despite the fact that leveling takes longer?
Right. That's a
so if that's
an anomaly,
let him finish.
right?
Let him finish.
You're just talking about Lineage 2.
Let him finish.
There's tons of other MMORPGs out there. So why do people enjoy playing Lineage 2? I have no idea.
Exactly. So if there are so many games and it's currently a trend to make leveling pretty short. I mean, I guess that I never played WoW, so please correct me if I'm wrong. WoW now is like, it doesn't take much time in WoW to level up. Same was in ESO, if I recall correctly. If I trust the person on the forum who wrote that, I'll make that note. Same applies to Throne and Liberty right now, and probably to many other games.
No, wait. No, it's not the same because Throne and Liberty is excessive. What I'm hearing is you can get to max level in like 20 hours or something like that, which is not really true. Which is not really true. You cannot get to max level starting at level 1 unless you do some kind of pay to win power boost, but it takes more than 20 hours to get from 1 to 60.
Doesn't matter. It's not even 100. Same.
It does matter.
The trend remains the same. There is plenty of games like to add New World to that, and I'm sure people who know more about MMORPGs would add like another dozen or two of games with fast leveling. And
it's not fast leveling, it's leveling, and then Ashes has slow leveling compared to standard leveling right now.
Compared to them,
standard
yes,
is going to be 60 to 100, and so the leveling speed for Ashes is already slow at 225 hours.
Depends on what you take as the what's the call? Like, you know, you have X is Y. It depends on what you take as 0 and compare with. If you compare it with those games, yeah, it's slow. If you compare it with Lineage, yeah, of course it's pretty fast. But the point is, why I'm comparing Lineage, it's not because this is my favorite game and I want Ashes to be the same as Lineage. No, because they share the very same, they have a lot of similarities in terms of philosophy. They have a lot of similarities in terms of vision. They have a lot of similarities in terms of in-game mechanics and systems. There is a reason why Steven highlighted that Lineage 2 was one of the games they took inspiration from, and they took systems from there, right? So I'm not saying that from a point like, oh, this is the game I played, I love it. I also played New World, and New World has had nodes as well, but I'm not addressing that because it's, you know, just one thing, not like 10 things. That's the first thing. So the reason why I'm pointing to that is all those similarities, which makes comparing Ashes to Lineage much more relevant than comparing Ashes to, like, I don't know, Throne and Liberty or Warcraft or anything less relevant than that.
I don't know why you seem to lump Throne and Liberty in with the leveling speed of WoW and
so
EQ.
Here's what I have found for WoW as you've been talking. Depending on your play style, getting to max level in WoW can take anywhere from 10 hours to 150 hours.
From 1 to 60? From 1?
Yes.
Can take, and what's the play style that gets you there in 10?
Speed
How many people do that?
Experienced players.
Probably a lot.
Experienced players in 20.
Yeah, so that's
still
what
20
we're talking about.
I mean, yes.
No, if you're talking about experienced players, that's not the same thing as people starting a game at launch and it taking them 225 hours. Sure, once you know
they got
the game
4
and
years
all that stuff,
multiple alphas to learn.
That's very good point. So I'm not the one who makes that point because that's the next one on the list. So the next
You're
point.
also gatekept by nodes, so.
Yeah, but I mean, you will still be able to do that. We don't know nothing. We don't know anything about naval content, and I'm not sure that they will be really dependent on the nodes. Right? Right. We don't know that for a fact, but you can call that an assumption.
Everything is dependent on nodes.
We'll see. We'll see.
You can't even. I don't know how you're going to get to boats before you have a village.
I mean, village is only a few days. It's not that many. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's Phantomax made a point that I also mentioned in my post and in both my post and video. So first of all, it is expected to take 225 hours. Let's call it like 200 or 250. Now, at this point, there is still years ahead of alpha, beta, and etc. There is going to be plenty of guides on YouTube that will tell you all the tips and tricks and guide you how to make this.
You can't have tips and tricks. You cannot have tips and tricks like that for a dynamic game.
For a dynamic game. Yeah, you will not have it on the same level as in other games, as it was in New World, for example, because everybody knew how to power level in New World before the launch, right? Right. Of course, it's not going to be like 2x like it was in New World, for example, or like 3x. But it's still going to be the case because people will know, like, oh, okay, if you want to start in newbie village, you can save time by not doing this quest, but focus on these 5 quests and complete them and move to another, node, for example. Or vice versa, just stay at your starting node because it's going to be the most developed node, because people like normally do not migrate when they just create a character. They just stick to the starter's location. There is still going to be plenty of tips and tricks that you can share with other people. And that alone can speed up the process. Maybe not a lot. Maybe it's going to be 20%. Maybe it's going to be 30%. But it's still going to speed up the process. Whether you want to agree with that or not, it's going to be the case. And if you want to disagree with me, cool. We have this on stream, and maybe in 3-5 years, we will be able to find out who was right and who was wrong.
3-5 years.
Yeah. I didn't want to say like more, but to keep because people would say I'm toxic, but.
Well, I'll come back here in 2030, and
yeah, I will fly. I will track your IP digs. I will find your address. I will come to your house, and I will say, "Told you." Yeah, but
we'll be online. We'll still be here. 2030, we'll still be waiting for Ashes to release. But
we'll just need to figure out what the next game is by then.
Yeah. So that's not the main point as well, and it's not the last point. It's far from being the last. The next point is, I think, that is extremely important, is the fact that after, like, let's take an average player who will reach the level cap in, like, let's say 3 months, right? It means that the Intrepid, like the developers, will be basically forced to prioritize the endgame content, like endgame dungeon. I understand what you're going to say. Ashes doesn't have a classic endgame. True. That's correct.
I wasn't going to say that. In 3 or 4 months, they will be releasing updates. That's the plan.
That's the plan. Yeah, we'll get to the plan soon enough as well. So basically, after 3 months, okay, at 4 months, 5 months, they will be forced to prioritize endgame content, endgame dungeons, because the majority of players, or a significant portion of them, will be at the level cap. If I'm a level...
It's not wait. Dungeons are not controlled by people at the level cap. Dungeons are controlled by whether something is a metro or a city or a town. So that's what's going to be governing the levels of the... what level the dungeon and raid is at.
Okay.
Yeah, but then you're going to have highly level people gating that part. So.
Yeah. So, if I'm level 50, I wouldn't care about a new quest arc for level 20s, because what's the point of me doing that unless I'm a role player or I have like an infinite amount of time and I have absolutely nothing to do.
Game. Let's not think about the role players in the role-playing game.
Exactly.
Because most of them aren't role players.
Yeah, exactly. So, as a result, low and mid-level content will be slowly forgotten over time, because once again, as long as Intrepid understands that, and they do, they will be forced to focus on player retention. And you can't retain a level 50 player.
Wait. You have to explain that. How is it going to be overlooking? Because you have people who are going to be in the you're going to have people who are in towns and villages and cities, and there's going to be content for those people. So I don't understand how you're going to be missing that content.
Because when I'm level 50 and I'm kind of thinking about continuing playing Ashes or going back to Fortnite, right? And then I find out that, okay, in the new patch, we got quests for level 10, for level 20, we got new commissions for level 25, and I'm like, okay, cool. What's there for me? And if there's not going to be any endgame content or like high-level stuff or new high-level gear or anything like that, I would be like,
That's
okay.
not the way Ashes works. Again, that's not the way Ashes works. The content that is available is based on whether there are towns, cities, and metros. That's what controls the levels of content. It's not about what it's the devs are going to put in all levels of content, and then what's available is going to be based on the metros and the cities and the towns.
That
and
is
the
correct.
villages.
Let's say, like, first of all, not all the content will be relevant, as just like I said, because if I'm level 50, I have no interest in level 30 content. First of all, because I won't have access to it due to level disparity. That's the first thing. And secondly, let's imagine we already have metros and we have unlocked, world bosses and dungeons. Okay, we've done them like 3, 5, 10 times. Okay, and we're gonna be waiting for something new. And if there is nothing new, then
that's not the way Ashes works. That's not the way content. You're talking about a static MMORPG that is not based on the design for Ashes.
Yeah, but it still applies.
It doesn't apply because you're saying you're waiting for new content. There's always going to be new content. That's the whole point, is that the content changes based on the racial demographics of a node. It changes. That's what's in the design.
Well, let's think about this though. Once you have your 5, 6 metropolises, how much?
If you have 5 or 6, if you have 5,
you will. How much do you actually expect them to change?
How do you know that you're going to have 5 if you can destroy them?
Because I don't think destroying them is going to be very easy to do. I also think most
5 is the upward cap that they've set.
Yeah. Okay. Let's assume it's not 5. It's 3.
But you're still going to have, I think, more stability within the metros than you are instability over time. They'll change from time to time, sure, but I don't think you're going to see that happen that frequently. So I do think,
especially taking into account the cooldown on the siege, which is 60 days for a metropolis.
Yeah, so you will have a period of time where you are sort of waiting on new stuff to come about. New content, I guess we'll say. But that's where in Ashes the hope is all of the PvP content fills that hole. Your caravans, your guild, your node wars, your guild wars, your castle sieges. Those are the things that are intended to sort of fill in the time between massive sort of PvE content.
Correct.
I disagree. Those are some options, but you also have your social progression, you have your racial, you have your religion.
I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think it's going to be nearly as in depth as you hope it will be for those things.
I mean, I'm just saying what the design says, right?
Yep.
So
it says they exist.
What they're able to deliver is something different, right?
It says they exist. I don't know that it said anything about their depth.
Well, you have that, and then, like I said, by the time you get into 3 or 4 months, there's supposed to be updates. So that's new content there too as well.
Yep.
I mean, the whole reason for PvX is to have PvP fill in that void.
PvP is a part of it. PvP is in everything.
It's almost everything.
It's not
filling a void. It's not filling a void. It's ubiquitous in everything. There's no void. PvP, it's a PvP centric game. PvP is a part of everything in Ashes.
Yeah, so you do PvE to unlock PvP. After you unlock PvP, you have an option whether you want to participate in it or not. And speaking of the updates, the next point about it is that taking into account the scale of Ashes, the amount of systems, and the number of things that can go wrong that is beyond counting. And if we follow the Murphy's Law that says that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. And the fact that Intrepid, despite being very careful with their plans and predictions about the dates, they still managed to postpone it. The thing is, I would be very surprised that if the launch actually goes smoothly, despite Alpha 2, despite Beta 1, despite Beta 2. There is always something that can go wrong, and it most likely will go wrong in a game of such scale. That said, longer leveling will allow Intrepid to have more time when it comes to adding new content, because you don't need to add, if you have a cooldown period of adding new content of 3 months, and that's when the average player reaches level 50, but you can't add new content because you are too busy fixing like everything that went wrong on launch and all bugs that you haven't noticed during Alpha 2 and Beta phases. And also, they will have an additional workload that's going to be huge, which is, customer support stuff, gold sellers, RNT, cheaters, etc., etc. I'm pretty sure, and once again, clip this, and we'll see if it's going to be the case. They will be pretty occupied with making sure that the stuff actually works within the first months, rather than focusing on adding new content. So that's another reason why that may be beneficial. It's reason number 5, I believe, and we're not even halfway there.
What leads you to believe that? You just made an assertion. What's causing you to have that suggestion? For one thing, although they're doing delays based on what Steven says he can do, that's from a gamer perspective instead of from a developer perspective. And from the developer perspective, it's all taking about what we expect for an MMORPG to release. So it's not like they're late by a developer perspective. They're late by Steven's gamer perspective, going in and saying, oh, I'm going to be the savior of MMORPGs. And then he's learning as he's on the development team that, oh, I can't do all this stuff and be the savior. I'm going to have to be doing it like most other people do in terms of dates. And we have, many seasoned EverQuest developers on the team, so they should know how to add content at a reasonable pace that's similar to what they did for EverQuest. So I don't know why we would just be assuming that they have no experience about how to.
That's not what I said. I say that there may be a lot of things, a lot of pitfalls, a lot of unforeseen circumstances. Maybe not a lot but some unforeseen circumstances that will arise, and that will force Intrepid to switch their.
Yeah, but we know it's not going to be a smooth launch because MMORPGs don't have smooth launches, right? That doesn't prevent them from doing updates in 3 to 4 months. And what we know is that the current trend is that it's now easier for them to actually do updates.
Yeah, but I prefer to stay pretty skeptical and be pleasantly surprised, because from what I observed in other games, from what I heard about other games, usually it's rather a pleasant surprise when everything actually goes according to the plan. And especially if we take, once again, the scale of Ashes of Creation, I would expect that things will go wrong. It's okay, it's not a big deal. But that's the reality of it. And once again,
we know things are going to go. We know things are going to go wrong because that's what happens with MMORPGs.
Exactly.
We know that's going to happen for a fact. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's not going to. That says nothing about preventing them from doing updates.
We don't know that for a fact, but there's a chance that it will.
We know that we have seasoned people on the team from EQ and people who have been working on MMORPGs. They only hire people who work on MMORPGs. So it's not like, this is going to be some surprise.
I mean, yeah, those two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive, but there is a chance, and we can argue how high that chance is, but there's a chance that some of their workforce will need to switch to fixing the stuff that is not working as it is supposed to work, rather on focusing on that. And the thing is,
they should know how to do that since they have experienced people working on the team.
yeah, but
I don't know why
the point is not whether they are capable or not of doing that, because I'm pretty sure we would agree that they know how to deal with that. It's about the time. And moreover, the thing is, that's actually a very good, like, it's a part of my mindset in general. You won't have to deal with the problems that you initially managed to avoid. And by making that take more time, just doubling the time, even doubling the time, it will give them more space for maneuver. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Double the time, you will half the number of people who are already going to play this, who are not going to be playing this niche game. I mean,
Why?
It's already niche.
According to whom?
Already niche. It's already niche. According to someone who's played bunches of MMORPGs and who's been a game developer for more than 10 years. Yeah, we'll clip it. We'll clip it and see what happens.
Please do.
I think you'll notice how those developers who made Lineage 2 and the ones who made Arcades are choosing not to have so much of a focus on PvP, and they probably are not having their leveling at 225 hours.
Oh no,
right?
they have. I'm not sure about Arcades, but it's longer than that in Lineage. Much longer.
No, I'm saying the Lineage 2 developers who made, didn't they make TNL? Who was making TNL?
NCSoft as well. But Throne and Liberty is a different game. You can't compare them.
They're choosing to make it different. It was supposed to be the next Lineage.
Well,
and then they chose to change it, right?
It's not a Lineage. It's as far like...
I know, but that was the initial plan, was to make the successor to Lineage, and then they chose not to.
Yeah, and New World was supposed to be an entirely different thing compared to what it ended up being.
That's my point.
And where is it now?
That is my point.
And we will also see where Throne and Liberty will be in a couple of months. You can clip this too.
Sure.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's good that you mentioned this, because that's the point that I wanted to make and I forgot about it, of course, is well, should we actually hang on? Should we actually talk about it now, or? Yeah, we'll actually mention this now. The thing is, there are actually many of them, but I'll highlight this one. There are many biases in people's head, and one of those biases comes from their experience in other MMOs where all fun begins at level cap. This is not going to be the case with Ashes, because you have little to no content locked behind a certain level requirement. I'm not talking about, like, it's basically freeholds, but there is a what's the right word for it? There is a way to circumvent that as well, because you only need level 50 to buy a freehold, but not to use it. So when people complain about that, they don't realize that they can do everything starting from, like almost right away. And the good analogy will be here is kind of like, I don't know, a fishing maybe, because you can go just take an ordinary simple fishing route and go to the nearest lake and catch a few fishes, right? Fishes, whatever, pieces of fish, right? Mm-hmm. But you can do at the same time competitive fishing when you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on some super nano next level 2027 fishing rods with super detectors, and it's like pay to win fishing. There is some fun in that too, but I mean, ordinary fishing is fun as well, and I'm saying that as someone who did that for many years when I was a kid. So that's the difference. And I don't see the problem with that, because there is none, in fact. The problem is the fact that you need to communicate that properly. It's very difficult when it comes to explaining people certain things, even if it's like 2 + 2 is 4. You're going to be a bunch of people who will disagree. But the thing is,
everybody else has confirmation bias, but you don't. That's what you just said.
No, first of all, I'm perfectly aware of what a confirmation bias is, and in addition to that, I'm perfectly aware of what a blind spot bias is as well. It's a tendency of people to be a little bit more forgiving when it comes to your own biases. So you have not only to take into account the bias itself, but this tendency as well. So I'm doing my best to do that. And it's not a confirmation bias because I'm not declining the information that contradicts what I say. And also,
Actually, you do that often. You say, "I have not yet found a decent counterpoint," even though people have given you many.
No. Yes, the fact between a decent counterpoint and, well, there were actually some, and a counterpoint that is strong enough to make me reconsider my suggestion or opinion, those are two different things. It may be decent, but it's not strong enough.
Yeah, nobody's gonna try and nobody's even gonna assume that we can change your mind.
So
You
I
can.
have mixed.
But you can. The funny thing is that you can. If you have a strong enough argument, there is a chance and that I will say, yeah, you're right and I was wrong. That's the point of it. You may think that it's not the case.
I say the same thing. And I say the same thing.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that as a formality or to be polite or to pretend. I'm saying that as a fact because that's the way I am. If you knew me better, you wouldn't even say that.
No,
Do you change your mind?
I say the same thing. That's my point.
I don't know that I've ever seen you change your mind.
I think you probably have.
You think?
Yeah, especially
over 10 years, I sure as hell hope so.
You especially also saw me change my mind about whether or not I'm going to play Ashes in a variety of ways.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, so the thing is, one of the things I had conversation, it was in a Russian speaking section of Discord. So it's all there. If you are curious, you can look it up. So it's right there. So there was, I was talking to a guy, I noticed that his name is familiar and I was like, hey, have you been playing Lineage 2 in that server? He's like, yeah, I did. And then we had a conversation about this as well. And he says like, no, I don't really want leveling to be long. And I'm like, what? Excuse me? Haven't you played Lineage? And he's like, yeah, I did. So I'm like, okay, what's the reason behind that? And he said, the reason behind that is because I don't feel comfortable and I feel anxious when I have my character and it doesn't have the best gear and all the skills. And I'm like, well, that's personal, of course, but I respect your honesty because you're not saying, you totally understand where your opinion comes from. You're being direct and straightforward, you're being honest, and you're not trying to, say, oh, okay, the game is shit, or try to rationalize it to, prove your point. That was the point. And there are so many people with same or similar or remotely similar thoughts in mind who and their concerns need to be addressed. And I don't know what's the good way to do that apart from just saying, but if only it ever worked, because no matter how many times Steven says that, look, this is alpha work in progress, clip this too, there will be a bunch of people who will say, oh, there is a bug. It's not a finished game. Well, duh, it's not supposed to be a finished game. And I wouldn't say, funny you should say that, but I watched an interview with Steven from 2 years ago, and back then, that I'm referring to your point that Ashes is a niche game, and back then he said, we have almost 3 million people who made an account on our website. Additionally, there is at least approximately 150,000 people who purchased a pack that was at least $250. How would you call that a niche game after that? That's huge numbers. And I'm not even saying that the number of people who will buy keys at the moment is probably tens of thousands because they are twice cheaper as Alpha 2 packs. And I'm not even mentioning the number of people who will join Ashes of Creation pre-launch when it's only going to be $15 a month to start. And the entry barrier is going to be low. And I'm not even mentioning all the advantages that you may like or not like the genre, but there are objective advantages, which is no pay to win, for example. This is if the game has to pay to win, it's boom, it's gone. I would never touch that crap. Even though I did, but that's not the game that I enjoy. And if you think that it's going to be a niche game, I wouldn't say so, because if the game if Intrepid actually manages to deliver at least like, I don't know, 60, 70, 80% of what they promised, it's already more than some of the games have, like, after many years of being live. So if the game ends up being good, people won't care whether it's gonna be, 200 hours or 500 hours. They will just enjoy the game and I will consume
Won't
the
enjoy it.
content.
That's my point. They won't enjoy it. That's my whole point. They won't enjoy leveling at a slow speed.
Exactly.
But
Why do you have that opinion?
Why
do you have that
there will
opinion?
be other games.
Why do you think
Because
that they
I
will
want to
not?
say something.
If you're playing for an RPG, then you're not going to enjoy being gate kept from your class leveling.
Yeah, but the difference is,
But in any case, just to jump in on what you were saying, there's going to be other games. This was true more so when Ashes was going to release before 2020. But even now, like I normally only have 1 or 2 games that I play per year. And now I have 5 games that I'm trying to play, and I don't have time to play all of them.
Okay,
I can
and-
only play one at a time. And wait, and there are other games coming. So it's going to be even less because people will be playing other games.
and out of all those games, where are they all now?
What do you mean?
Like, how many of them are dead or don't have the numbers? Like, okay, take a look at New World. It's gone from 900k to super decent numbers, from 900k to what, 5k, if that.
One of the games is World of Warcraft, and another one of the games is Fortnite, and another one of the games is No Man's Sky.
Fortnite, excuse me? How is it relevant to MMOs?
Because Diggs plays it.
Okay.
I'm just saying there's other games. There's other games.
Of course, but there's gonna
that
be,
people will be playing.
once again, if Intrepid manages to deliver what they promised, then it's gonna be other games and Ashes. Simple as that.
If you can fit it in.
I mean,
But that's also the point of it's fine to have 225 hours because you'll be playing other games once you reach max adventure level if you want to leave.
okay, look at this.
But I don't think
Look at
people
it
are
from
gonna
this
leave.
perspective. If 150,000 people spend at least $250 for a game that is still years away, how do you think, how many people will spend $15 for a game that is already launched, for example? That's probably 10 times more easily.
Throne of Liberty. Sorry, there's a chat.
I'm
I just want to say.
Okay, go ahead.
There's this mention about Throne of Liberty and people playing it. It actually went above. I think pretty sure today it peaked in its most concurrent on Steam. So they're not actually losing.
Oh, of course, it's only a few days.
Good job. I actually want to bring a different, and it's not a fully confirmed. They've talked about this system, and I think it brings a lot of legs to the game for players. That that concept that they've pitched of being able to specialize in all of the secondary archetypes with one character as a way to assist with and improve retention, especially if you don't have to get one all the way to the top before you switch another one in. That's one of those things that I've been thinking about a little bit this whole time. I even mentioned it in chat earlier, that it effectively would allow players to replay the 25 to 50, the second half of the leveling, multiple times over. So instead of just being I'm max level, there's no point to me going to the lower level stuff. Suddenly the 25 to 25 or 26 to 50 progression now means something again to players who have already been able to get it at max level. And when their raid group decides, all right, we need our tank times tank to come in here and be a tank for us, that you switch back to your tank mode and then you go and take that dungeon. But then afterwards, you'll go back to your tank times mage or whatever, because you just felt like that was a really fun combination. You like having maybe the elemental strikes on your weapons to do extra procs or something that synergizes with your tank in some way. And yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, so it sounds like a subclass system in Lineage when you can also choose 3 different classes as your subclasses, and then switch to them in case of necessity. They were not as strong as would your primary as your primary character with that class be, but they were kind of like okayish. So it sounds like something like that, but once again, I'm not really sure. Like, I haven't really seen a lot of info about that, so maybe I just don't know.
Yeah. There's a little bit that they haven't given as much detail to us about, unfortunately. So it's still, as far as I'm concerned, in the conceptual, we might do it, we might not phase, rather than a definitive, we are absolutely going to do this. But it sounds like they want to do it more than they don't want to do it. And it's not going to be a secondary class that you're necessarily going to be weaker in than your primary, so much as that every archetype has 8 secondary archetypes that they get to mix together with. And so this is partially a for fun and partially a way to extend content and partially a way for them to get away with not trying to balance everything. If your primary and secondary happens to be the one that's like the worst and nobody can make it work, then you have the option to switch out without completely getting rid of that character or only keeping them for whatever niche situation. So like for that, as a way to give players more to do and more to focus on, instead of just I'm going from level 1 to level 50 and now I'm only doing level 50 stuff. What do you think of that as an alternative to extending the length it takes to get from 1 to 50?
I mean, the idea can be good, but it all comes to implementation, how that is implemented, how that is relevant, and how many players actually care about it. Because idea itself is like little to nothing. You can have a great idea, but you can just, excuse my French, fuck it up, right?
That's true.
So, I don't know, we'll see sooner. Oh, we'll see later.
Also, what I took from what you said is not just switching your secondary archetype, but it's an RPG, which means I'm going to have at least 1 alt and probably 2 or 3. So typically, once we got to a place where hell levels were gone, and I could get to max level at a reasonable pace, that meant that I would be leveling at least 2 or 3 characters to max before I quit playing.
Thank you.
Hell levels.
Yep,
when we talk about hell levels, we're talking about EverQuest. EverQuest had traditionally, I think it was
EverQuest
11.
and World of Warcraft.
No, World of Warcraft did not have hell levels.
Yes, they did.
No, they did not. EverQuest
Yes,
got
they
rid
did.
of hell levels in 2003, as they were known. However, the total amount of experience that you needed to gain to get to max level did not change. So they actually just took the hell levels that took more experience and factored it in across more levels. So they actually discontinued that prior to World of Warcraft even releasing. So continue.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that you brought up the concept of alt characters, because that was the next point on my list. So the next point on my list is specifically about them. So I don't think it's gonna be something that anyone would argue with, but there would be a simple correlation, like the faster the leveling is, the more alt characters people will end up having. Would you agree with that?
Say that again?
Okay, just a simple example. In a game that requires 20 hours to reach the level cap, and there is another game
I don't know why we talking about a game, an MMORPG that has 20 levels. That's ridiculous. And I understand that Throne and Liberty has that, but I'm not aware of any other MMORPG that takes that amount of time.
Forget
from
Throne
one
and
to six.
Liberty for a moment. It's just an abstract example, a question.
Well, don't use an absurd example,
27.
please.
Okay, 37. Like, I don't know. Okay, there's one.
Let's 60 to 100. 60 to 100 is standard.
Doesn't matter. Okay, there's one RPG, and you need 100 hours to level up the character, right? There is another RPG that requires, let's say, 1,000 hours to level up the character. In which game?
To 50? Wait, to 50?
It's just we're not talking about Ashes. It's two imaginative games.
I don't care. I'm trying to. Yeah, you have to give me a hypothetical because you have to tell me what we're talking about.
That's a hypothetical. There is one game where
What is it? What is it?
It doesn't have a girl doesn't have a name. It's just an analogy. It's just a metaphor.
You have to give me what the level cap is. You have to give me what the level cap is.
It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
It does matter. It's not irrelevant. That is crucial.
Right.
That's my point.
May I address my point to Neuro or to Phantomex?
Sure.
Okay, there are two games. One of them requires 100 hours to reach the level cap. And then there is another game that requires 1,000 hours to reach the level cap. In your opinion, in which game players will end up having more alt characters? In the first one or in the second one?
If there is a significant difference between character A and character B, I could see both of them potentially doing it, but the one who does it in 100 hours definitely more likely to have 2 or 3 alts.
It's not about the specific quantity. It's like, if you take math, there are numbers like 3, 7, 22, and there are variables, which is X, Y, and Z. We're not talking about the numbers, we're talking about the variables. Right? So that's the point.
Yeah, I mean, EverQuest is a great example for me. I rarely have ever reached max level, but I had multiple different characters.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. But technically, if it's easier to make an alt character and level up it to the cap level, it takes less time. Then
right, but the whole point is not reaching max level. And we agree on that. When you play an RPG, it's not that the point of playing an RPG was not I've got to get to max level. The point was I'm playing the game, I get some rewards, and then I get eventually to the next level, and that takes a reasonable amount of time. And you don't artificially just extend the amount of time to get to the next level so that it feels like, why is it taking so long? I've been doing this stuff, and now all of a sudden, I can't get my rewards from the next level, and those rewards are new abilities, new skills, and new stats. It has nothing to do with trying to get to the level cap. The level cap is really irrelevant. That's not why people were playing RPGs. And I know that once they reduced the time that it took, so that you could it stopped taking years. Then yeah, we got stuck to this place where you could get to level cap in 3 weeks to 4 weeks to 6 weeks, and then you were stuck at endgame for a whole year and a half. So yeah, the problem is being stuck at endgame for a year and a half. So you have to alleviate that. And Ashes has numerous ways to alleviate that.
I have a follow-up question. Well, what you said is true, but how is it relevant? Let me ask you guys. If that's your 7th alt character, do you still read the dialogues in the chats? Are you still exploring the story? Or you just follow, put your character on rails and...
Because why would I do
just
that? The whole point of having an alt character is so that you're not experiencing the exact same storyline. So you should be playing the different factions. You should be playing different genders. You should be getting different. And this is a difference between the way Phantom and I played Nightingale, actually, because Phantom got his one character to max and was like, "There's nothing left to do." And I did go through with my second character and played the same amount of time, 200 hours, to go through the dialogue and get different experiences and get different dialogue cues from the NPCs. That's the whole point of having an alt, is to play them differently so that you get a different story.
it may be one of the points, but that's not the only point. If I need a level 50 character, like a PK alt, or just another alt to farm some instance dungeon that has a cooldown, like not just one time with my main character, but with a second character as well, I wouldn't care about it, because the whole point will be to level up it as soon as possible. And the point that I'm trying to make is that if leveling takes 100 hours, I would do that in a week. If leveling takes 1,000 hours, I would think twice, 3 times, and then 10 more times before actually thinking, like, is that even worth it? Is it worth to put 1,000 hours in that game? And the general point that I'm trying to make here is alts are not a problem in a game like New World, right? You can, like, there are many people who have different alts and it's not a big deal on this server and that server, or like several characters on the same server. It's not a problem. It doesn't affect anything. But when it comes to Ashes of Creation, it's going to be an issue. Why? Because one of the core pillars of Ashes of Creation is player interdependency. One of those aspects is artisan skills. There is a reason why we can only become Grandmasters of 2 skills, not a full 22. Why? So that you are encouraged to interact with other players. Now, let me ask you this. If the leveling in Ashes remains as it is, how long do you think it will take for players, especially hardcore players, to skip that part by just leveling a character?
Skip what part?
Skip the part when they, instead of looking for someone and paying them to craft something, they're like, fuck it, I'll just make an alt character, and taking into account the fact that it's not really connected to leveling, only gathering actually, like, seriously affected by that, but when it comes to processing and crafting, it's not really the case. So that's one of the issues. And I'm not even talking about PK alts, because despite the fact that Ashes addressed the flaw of Lineage 2 PK system by applying progressive stop dampening to mitigate the potential consequences of PK alts, it's still going to happen. And if it remains as it is, I wouldn't have a problem with leveling those, like, characters, give them some basic gear, and just simply for a fact that they're level 50, they'll be killing, I don't know, level 40s with no problem. And even if they won't kill them in a PK and a person fights back, cool. They will be killed by another player, like from my group or for something else. So that's another thing. Having alts in many games is not an issue. Having alts in Ashes of Creation may be a problem. And over time, it's gonna be more and more serious, because more and more people over time will have more alt characters. And that aspect of player interdependency and some secondary issues as PK alts will become more and more, like, serious issue. Like, if I'm not sure that issue is the right word for it, just the consequences that it would be better for the game not to have.
Time is not going to stop someone who plays alts from making the alt. Time would stop someone from playing the game specifically. So yeah, if it took too long for me to make an alt, then I probably would not just play. I probably just would not play that game.
Exactly.
That means the leveling that the leveling speed is too slow.
Yeah, but that's
and
you.
not rewarding enough.
But that is you.
Well, that's what we're talking about, and there's plenty of people like me, and there's plenty of people who are no longer playing the game. We got a whole bunch of we used to have a whole section of RPers, people who used to play EverQuest and WoW on RP servers that used to be in the forums that are no longer there because, you know, Ashes doesn't support that.
Exactly.
So yeah, you could do a lot of stuff to make it even more niche, and extending the time significantly, doubling the time would make it even more niche. Sure.
It would only make it more niche for in two scenarios. First of all, the first scenario is if leveling ends up being monotonous and not rewarding. It is rewarding in Ashes, and you can listen to Steven talking about that specifically. And what he said is, it's not a perfect quote word for word, but the point of that is every level, every single level, will have a reward, such as like skill point or something like that, and there will be other levels, like, you know, a bit bigger milestones that will have more rewards than that. So that's the first thing. Secondly, the amount of I don't think anybody here would deny that the power of that dopamine hit that you get from reaching the next level is in direct correlation with the amount of efforts and time you put in. Simple example.
Nope. I disagree.
Of course, but yeah, the point still stands. Because did it feel rewarding for me to reach level 60 in New World? I mean, no, because maybe just a little bit because I was amongst the first who did that. But in general, was it rewarding? No, because it only took a few days. Did it feel rewarding reaching level 42 from 40, jumping from level 42 to 43 on Lineage 2 Classic? Yes, because I spent maybe a few days to do that, and I got a few skills, and the dopamine hit was so powerful that, I don't know, add any metaphor
Which is
here.
my point. That is, of course, why you want to extend it longer, because it gives you more of a dopamine hit.
It gives everyone a bigger dopamine hit, not me.
It doesn't.
I'm not that special.
I'm one. I'm not everyone.
You are not, but it's still it is just the nature of how we work.
It is not. There are different play styles, right? And you fall in one play style, and obviously if you get a bigger dopamine hit from longer levels, you're going to want games to have longer levels.
No,
right? And if you don't, then you're not going to want to have longer levels. If it doesn't give you that dopamine rush, if you're in that population of people for whom it doesn't give a dopamine rush and actually does the opposite, then you're not going to want to have longer levels. That's my point.
Here's what I've been wanting to...
It doesn't apply to leveling only. Yeah. It also applies to literally anything IRL. It's one thing when you, I don't know, earn $10,000 and you do it yourself at the age of 16. And it's another thing when your dad gives you $10,000 and you're like, yeah, okay, go waste it. You will even spend those money in a different way because in first case, you put time and effort and most likely it was difficult. And in the second time, it just fell from the sky, you know? And you'll be like, oh, whatever, I'll buy some, I don't know, 10th pair of Gucci shoes that I don't need anyway, but whatever, money's free. Right.
So here's a point that I've been wanting to.
I wouldn't agree with that for me myself.
Oh,
what's up? Go ahead.
I was just say a point that I've been wanting to actually mention about Ashes that is different. I can see this many different ways. Part of why it worked in EverQuest, well, one is just because EverQuest was the first around and there were no alternatives, so you had to do what they did. But EverQuest also had a lot of different things to engage you during that level, those level grinds. Open world dungeons. There were raids for essentially once you hit level 25. There were raids for anyone all the way up to the top levels. There's craft. There's a lot of stuff. Most modern MMORPGs don't really have a lot of that, right? How many raids can you do in World of Warcraft at level 20? Ashes is in a unique position here, and this isn't necessarily me arguing one way or the other, but if you do increase the amount of time it takes to reach max level, theoretically anyways, Ashes is in a unique situation in which they have the systems available, theoretically, to fill in all of that, to sort of do the EverQuest approach of you don't really notice that it's taking longer because there's just shit to do.
No, again, because you don't care about class levels and you don't like class levels. But the point to an RPG is the class level. So if it's taking you longer to get to the next class level, that's the problem.
Ashes has far more than just class levels. For you, it's important that you reach that class level. And it's important for everyone to have those class levels there. But there's a lot of other systems in place per your own. You said this yourself at the beginning. Social orgs, racial progression.
Mm-hmm.
Ashes is uniquely positioned to where they could actually probably prolong leveling and have enough stuff that people really wouldn't notice it different. But anyways, that's all I wanted to put out there, that Ashes kind of is set up in a way that you could potentially do that and not really piss everyone off. Now, if you were to do that in World of Warcraft, right, double their leveling time, I think people would get irritated because there's just not stuff to do. But Ashes is in a little bit different of a position for that. So
Exactly.
It
So
is, and players already have the ability to do that by focusing on other progression paths and doing other stuff if they want to prolong the path to max adventure level.
so the
They can
thing
do that
is,
already.
my point is, like, general point is, it doesn't matter how long leveling takes. I wouldn't care if it takes like 5,000 hours, as long as the process is enjoyable and rewarding. That's the point. And Ashes, in my opinion, in my subjective opinion, has everything to make that process not boring and monotonous by providing a wide variety of activities that players can do and to gain XP as a result of their actions and activities. So, yeah. Additionally, oh, sorry, I don't hear you. Are you muted?
No, I was just about to say, holy shit, we're not. There's no one talking. Like, what's?
Oh, yeah.
Did I lose? Did I lose something? What's going on with my headpieces? Like,
No.
are they broken? No, keep going.
Yeah.
I'm having fun. I'm having fun. So keep going.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, not gonna lie. So once again, thank you for having me. Yeah. Another point that is important when it comes to this conversation is we're talking about 2 to 3 months for an average player on launch. But then it's not going to be 2 or 3 months, because we start, those lucky people who will be there on on launch, that we hope that will happen at some time, right? They will be starting from an absolute wilderness. There will be no nodes, there will be nothing on the market, there will be you'll be wearing some rags that you found on some goblin, right? Or but people who join a month or two after that, it's not going to be 225 hours for them. It's going to be much faster because, as you said, well, the point that you made is there is content that is locked behind a node progression, and a month or two after that, there will be more nodes that develop to stage 3 or maybe 4 or maybe 5, and they will have access to that content right away. In addition to that, once again, let's not forget that there's going to be different guides on YouTube, because both like Alpha 2 and Beta don't have any NDA, so people will share literally anything, chasing those views. And in addition to that, some people that will come, they will have friends who already play the game, because that's often the way that people join the game, because just their friends tell them like, hey, there is a cool game, come join. And of course, they will get help from those friends. They will also get help from people, and once again, I'm pretty sure that there will be people like that, because even a toxic game like Lineage had those players who were just helping the newbies and guiding them and giving them some gear. There will be plenty of stuff available on the market that they will be able to buy right away, not struggle with crafting or trying to understand like, okay, where do I find these resources? I have no idea, right? Because we will not know everything when we just start playing. And additionally, if you have friends, you can still get power leveled. Now, there are certain limits to that. 9 level difference, like 9 level disparity, right, in a group. But let's say you are level 42 and you have a group of friends who are level 50. Guess what happens? They will just take you to the group. They will just carry you through all the dungeons where you farm that juicy XP from elite zones, and that will speed up the process as well. So all those tiny details combined in one big detail make me wonder. Not make me wonder, it's actually pretty obvious that people who join after the launch, 1-2 months after, it's not going to be 225 hours for them. It's going to be faster. Once again, we don't know how much faster, but maybe 10%, maybe 20%, maybe 30%. But with the course of time, everything is going to get faster. So that's another thing. I believe it's reason number 8 why I think it's a good idea. But I've lost count, to be honest, but I guess you get the point. So is there anything you would probably disagree when it comes to this statement?
Oh, I was done as soon as you talked about the dopamine rush.
No, what you had said about the increased speed for new players coming in definitely makes sense. 100% that's going to happen. And likewise, that there's going to be, people trying to guide new players in, people who have their communities that they're trying to bring more people into from the other games they've played. So sure, there's definitely going to be a lot of that. I don't actually think that's necessarily a reason to slow down the pace of leveling by increasing the amount of experience it takes. I will still say that and this is an opinion I've had for many years, that just traveling from point A to point B is like a sort of fake content that extends the length of gameplay. Trying to find a specific resource out in the wild that's hard to access and hard to get to for a commission or something like that, again, is another thing that can have people, going in circles trying to find something, and eventually they'll find it. But was it the most efficient gameplay possible? No. Compared to just killing mobs, it probably could have gotten it done faster or just picked a different commission. So I feel like there's gonna be enough things for people to be slowed down by and to play the game slowly, that even though 225 hours is the average given the numbers that they provided, I really have no idea what it's going to actually be like for people who spend a lot more time. They go back and forth, they play the game in ways that they might not even realize are inefficient. And then when new players come in, yeah, they might be interested in getting to max level and getting up their craft and trade skills that much faster, but
to join their friends.
To join their friends. And I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing, to be able to help players who are lower down. You're not going to be able to do everything for them. They certainly have to spend time and effort, especially if they're building up a trade skill. There's only so much you can kind of feed for them. They still have to do all of the gathering to get the gathering skills up. So I think that there's 225 is a 250, 250 even, 300 even is still just like for an informed and experienced MMO player that's been playing MMOs for a while and is coming to this understanding what it is and how it's different. People who are newer to MMOs or are experienced with MMOs but don't actually understand what's different about the systems and goals of Ashes of Creation might be a little confounded and might take a little bit longer, but eventually come to like the system and enjoy it, or maybe they don't like that it has these different systems, so they'll find their way out and go back to something that's a little bit more comfortable to them. That's some of the sort of things that I think about with a lot of the things that you've brought up across the show. What do you think about any of that? It looked like you were writing some notes down.
Of course I did. Well, first of all, it's obviously not the only reason, not the only reason to make leveling longer, and it's definitely not the main one. It's just one of many reasons in the list that I have on the left. Secondly, obviously, it's not a bad thing to be able to help your friends who just start. Of course it's not, but it's the natural course of events. It will happen. And this thing, along with any other things, such as watching YouTube guides, will speed up the process. So, and in addition to that, people will just especially if it comes to alt characters, you will naturally level up your second character faster than you did with the first one, because you already know what to do. You already know how to all the shortcuts. You already have some money for the gear for the beginners. You already have more experience in games, so as a result, you will die less often, which means less death penalties, which means less, wasted time. So if you combine all these factors, they may be tiny, and each one of them just contributes to like 5, 10, 20% boost when it comes to leveling speed. But if you combine all of them, you will realize that those 225 hours may end up being 100 hours eventually, right? And I'm not even talking about some specific cases when you have friends who will just carry you, right? And in general, once again, as I mentioned, me and probably a certain segment, if not a big segment of the player base, wouldn't care how long leveling takes if it's enjoyable and rewarding. But in any case, in your opinion, how many percent, what's the percentage of players that will rush to max level one way or another in a game with a vertical progression?
I would expect kind of different levels of rush, that there's going to be maybe 10 to 30% of them that are full on max level, whatever it takes, and are, it's not just 225 hours, but they're going to cram that 225 hours in the first month of gameplay rather than,
or in 2 weeks, or in 3 weeks,
or in 2 weeks even. And then they're going to be where they're at, and they're going to be the ones making the guides, and they're going to be the ones doing the raids first and foremost, and doing the world first. And I would say behind them are the people that want to get to max level and play max level content, but they want to engage in more of the other systems along the way, more trade, more trade skill stuff, more government politics related stuff. And that's probably going to be, I don't know, maybe more like 30 to 50% of the population. And so I would say the rest of the population that continues playing are going to be the folks that really take things super duper slow. Like, they might not log in every day. They might not even log in every week. They take the game at their own pace, and they're astounded and amazed by the way the world is changing around them. Plus or minus areas that they thought were safe before, now they're getting their ass chewed on by things 10, 20 levels higher because the world has progressed around them and they weren't there to level with it. And that's probably one of the... Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, just a quick note. I'm still pretty sure that there will be plenty of low-level areas for players no matter when they join. So the question about high-level zones, yeah, it may be subject to change, especially on launch, but for low-level players, it's going to be everywhere. You just may need to, if you didn't log in for a week or two, yeah, you may need to, go from one area to another because something changed in the world, but it's still going to be, it wouldn't be a big deal, I think.
You left a town and came back to a Sydney, and suddenly the bandits outside are much tougher. Yeah, that I for people who don't log in as frequently, I would imagine that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say here's sort of my argument against changing time to level. We have our hardcore group that are going to rush and they're going to be the ones that get the mayorships and get the freeholds and do all of these high level PvP events. And then you have your casual people that are going to be playing. I still don't know how they define casual. I'd be very curious. Maybe we should ask Steven that in two Sundays. How does he define casual in hours? Because I'm really curious how much they think a casual player plays in a day.
I'd say probably 2, maybe 2, 3.
See, I think it's less than that. I think it's less than that.
I mean, at the same time, if you take a look at the research that someone posted, the statistics about the amount of time that players spend in games, you will notice...
Wait. MMORPGs specifically.
So yeah, the point that I was trying to make is that the whole chart is divided into two parts. The left part is just players playing all kinds of games, but the right part is MMO players. And you will see that MMO players put more time when it comes to playing MMOs compared to ordinary people. So that's a factor that we need to take into account.
Yeah, so it's still not 2 hours per day.
Well, what I see here is 1 to 2 hours. So
yeah.
So at top end, that's fine. But what I was going to say is when you start increasing the time to level, that starts to kind of affect your casual players much more than it affects your hardcore players. And I think you start to get a big imbalance. The best way to look at that,
imbalance in terms of what?
Experience and just overall fun. So let me look at it in a numbers way. This is just arbitrary numbers. Let's say it takes a hardcore player 20 hours to get to max level.
Okay.
And let's say it takes a casual player 200 hours to get to max level.
Wait, what?
Now, these are just. Did you hear what I said? These are arbitrary numbers.
No, I don't understand. It's going to take both 20 hours.
What?
Yes, it's going to take both 20 hours, but one person will achieve. But one person will play those 20 hours within a day, and another one will reach it in 2 weeks. Yeah. That's the difference.
Right.
You think that a hardcore player and a casual player spend the same amount of time?
The same hours. They don't play this. They don't spend this.
You think it takes to gain a level?
Gameplay.
Hold on. You think that the time it takes to get one level in a game is the same for a hardcore player as it is for a casual player?
For a hardcore time player and a casual time player. Yes.
You think one level takes the same amount of time for both of them?
The same hours.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
How can it not?
Because that's just not. Casual players will by nature do things slower. They will spend less time. They aren't going to rush quest giver to quest giver. They are going to spend time. They're going to read. Let me finish. They're going to read the text. They're going to watch the cutscenes. You're just naturally going to. It's going to take you longer. That is just how a hardcore player and a casual player. It's not.
No, that's not time. That's challenge.
100%. It's
that's time. That's
I don't know where you're coming from.
There's casual time players and casual challenge players.
What you're talking about is the total experience points it takes is the same between the two groups. 50,000 experience to get from 1 to 2.
I'm talking about the hours invested in the game.
And you're wrong. You're wrong because a hardcore player is going to get to. Yes, you are.
When you talk about that, you're talking about challenge. A casual challenge player is going to take more time and not rush.
A casual player, literally the term casual, they are taking a casual approach to the game.
No.
Oh my goodness! I don't even know where to go with this. How do you beat on this score?
There's casual time and casual challenge. Those are two different things.
Phantom,
I am a casual. No. Yes, they are. I'm a hardcore time player and a casual challenge player.
No, Phantom X, do you now understand what I'm dealing with on the forum?
I mean,
efficiency was the word that was in my head too.
Exactly.
Nice word in there from chat. It's the rate at which you're able to complete the things. If it takes me, because I work real hard and fast, if it takes me 5 hours to chop down a tree, and it takes someone who, they take a lot of breaks in between, they, look at their cell phone a lot, they're, they really like to rest up between a few strokes here and there. That person might take 8 hours or 10 hours to fell the same tree. And we both did the same thing. We've both felled a tree, but the difference is I did it as thoroughly and hard and effectively and time efficient as I could, versus the other person, they took longer because they were sitting there, delaying it, not because they were necessarily like, hey, let's delay this, but because they like to take more breaks in between their swinging, because they have a new girlfriend they've been dating, they like to text back and forth when they have a chance. Whatever it is, it took me 5 hours to fell the tree. It took them 10 hours. That's now replace felling a tree with getting a level. They're not talking to their cell phone to their girlfriend. No, they're talking to more of the NPCs. They're taking in the beauty of the environment, but in doing so, they're spending more gameplay hours to achieve what I was able to do faster, because all I'm doing is going out and killing mobs that are at my same level and just mashing through them and healing back up and mashing through them as quickly as I possibly can. And because that generates much faster experience than the way that the more casual player is doing it, I am leveling faster. My 5 hours and their 10 hours, we both completed the same experience, we both completed the same result, but one person was able to do it a hell of a lot faster than the other. That says nothing about the enjoyment. We both might have enjoyed it an equal amount in our own ways. But in terms of, if you want to know which person you want to hire to chop down the next 20 trees, and you're offering that I can do 2 trees a day if I feel like it, versus the other person can never do it in less than 10 hours. Well, yeah, I'm going to be the person that's chopping those trees down because I do it faster. Maybe you keep the other guy around too because he's your cousin. But
So
I'm
that's a
getting
good way
paid
to
for
put it.
two logs worth
I
to the other person's 1 log.
Yeah, so like Diggs, did it take us both the same amount of time to get to the max level in Nightingale? No, it did not. Took you longer. Because you took your
But
time. You did your thing.
No, because I was playing but I'm playing hardcore time. So what do you mean by that? Hours? I mean, I played for 400 hours.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
and it took me less time to get to the max level than it took you. Plain. It did, because I was there first. So what I'm getting at, let me finish.
Wait. No. Let's explore that.
No.
So what I'm
I don't want
saying
to
is,
explore. I want to continue with what I was talking about before.
No, you don't get to just drop something that's.
Yes, I do,
that's
because
not
you
correct.
took my original.
No.
You took my original
No.
conversation. Yes, you did. You sidetracked it.
No. I haven't.
Yes, you did.
No, I haven't.
Because I haven't
Listen,
finished what I was going to say.
Well, and you're not going to either. So hardcore time, right? I can play longer hours, right? Did it take you longer because I was playing 2 characters, right? So it didn't take you longer. I mean, you didn't get there quicker than I did with 1 character. It's just that I was playing multiple characters.
Okay.
I was playing multiple characters
because you
weren't.
chose to spend your time in a different way. Thus, it took you longer to get to a max level than I did. So let me go back to my original conversation.
But I was playing. Was I playing hardcore? Wait. Was I playing hardcore time?
I don't really care.
Time?
Can I add a quick
Was
note?
I playing hardcore? Am I a hardcore player or a casual player?
You're a slow player.
What does that mean? I'm a slow player.
It took you longer to get to max level than me.
But I'm not trying to get to max level.
Well, you're still slower.
But I'm on 2 characters, so how is it slower? Because
I got there first.
On 1 character.
Exactly.
Yeah, but why does that mean that I'm slower?
Diggs, let me add a quick note.
And what does that have to do with casual versus hardcore? That's kind of my question.
Yeah, let me quickly answer your question. So the difference between hardcore and casual players is not only in the amount of time that each of them is able to put in a game. It also touches the aspect that is called the knowledge about the game, the depth of that knowledge, and basically the amount of time that each person put into learning how to be more efficient than the others. So if you take a hardcore player, there is a significantly higher chance that he will be informed about the all latest secret or not so secret techniques and strategies and tips and tricks how to do something faster compared to the casual player, who the reason why casual players play less time, it may be because he just doesn't play a lot, or he just doesn't really have a lot of time to do that. So as a result of that, there is a lower chance that he will be watching all those, guides and having access to some, Discord servers where people share stuff and share some techniques before they, became public. So it's not only the amount of time a hardcore player puts in that is larger, it's also the depth of the knowledge of each of those categories about the game.
So I a hardcore player or a casual player?
You're a casual player. And I know this.
But I do hardcore time, but I play hardcore time.
I have no idea what that means, to be honest.
But
that
I
just
remember
means you're
when we were playing, we're talking about Nightingale, right?
Sure.
When we were playing, I remember you definitely preferred if I'm not mistaken, actually, I'm not going to say I know for sure. You'd preferred to play things at the lower difficulty for each of the realms instead of I was playing things at basically the highest realm difficulty I could survive at, so that way I could get the resources faster and kill the stuff faster and get my goods and keep on improving and progressing more rapidly. That is what people would probably say is more of a hardcore approach, to take things at the highest difficulty you can survive at and using that to leverage towards getting better equipment, getting better materials, getting your spendable currency, which is the essence, at a faster pace, so that way I can continue to progress and get tougher much faster. So I would say the way that you had played it, you were playing it at a more casual pace. You weren't trying to take on the most difficult stuff. You weren't trying to min-max your gear. You were playing your characters in a narrative sort of manner. I remember one of them you didn't even like to use guns on, and so I was giving you all of my funky sling stones. So I know you definitely it wasn't just that you had played at a lower difficulty. It sounds like artificially hindered some of your characters a little bit, so that way they wouldn't have the greatest gear they possibly could have before you go into a higher challenge. So I will say you might have, role-played your characters to the max, but that doesn't mean that you were playing what is considered a hardcore gameplay approach of trying to hit the highest challenges for the best rewards so you can keep hitting the next highest challenge for the next best rewards, and so on and so forth, which is more how I was playing it.
Yeah, but that's challenge, and I'm talking about time. So like I said, I play hardcore time and casual challenge. I'm a hardcore time player because I play more than 8 hours a day.
You say hardcore time, and I hear inefficient.
Yeah, that's kind of.
But it can.
I hear inefficient. That's what I
hardcore time. I play 6 to 8 hours a day. If we're talking about hours playing the game, how many hours does an MMORPG person play? I play 6 to 8 hours. That's my time.
18 hours.
I'm gonna push back on that and say that
my challenge is casual challenge.
No, I'm gonna push back on that and say the way in which you engage the gameplay defines what the time is. You were playing it casual. You might have invested a lot of time, but it was being done in a casual manner. I was trying to get as far and fast as I could.
Yeah. That's the difference between challenge and time.
So basically you just played as an ordinary casual player who just plays 8 hours.
Hardcore time.
Who plays 8 hours instead of 2 hours. Right?
That's right.
Exactly.
No, I don't think that's hardcore time. I think that's you just play. Once again, I'm saying the way that the way I would at least say it is that the manner in which you spend the time correlates to what hardcore, softcore, whatever sort of declaration it has. And so by default, you are not actually, under that terminology, you're not doing hardcore time, because none of the time you're playing is hardcore gameplay. You're just playing a whole shitload of casual challenge time.
Basically, you are just a casual players who plays more time.
Hardcore time. Who plays hardcore time?
Yeah, that doesn't make you a hardcore player.
I'm a casual challenge player who plays hardcore time, and there's two different spectrums. That's what I'm saying.
Like, okay, yeah, I've had.
We're gonna have to.
I've had a few jokes popping up.
There are players who do hardcore challenge, but only have casual time to play, right?
Yeah.
Lots of people used to be that. They were hardcore gamers when they were in college, and now they don't have the time to play as hardcore as they would like.
Yeah. But
well, we are near our time. I hate to end this because this has actually been quite a, well, depending on who you ask in chat, interesting conversation. But I think Neuro is going to have to be bouncing here soon. So I do want to give you an opportunity, though. Did you have anything else, Flanker, either another point to kind of talk about real quick, or I know you had some stuff wrote down.
We only got to the middle of that, but overall, overall, all those things combined make me have a firm belief that it would make sense. I mean, you may agree or disagree with it, but at least there is some logic behind it that's not comes from my personal preferences, because it's not the case. And yeah, I see you laughing, Diggs, but at the same time, once again, a few people said the same thing on forum, and I told them, if you want to be objective, look at the other thread when I'm advocating against something that is in my best interest, which is removing HP bars. Because I'm not doing that for my personal benefit, because it would be much more beneficial for me if those HP bars stayed, so that I can, because I'm used to that, I know how to exploit that, I know how to, take advantage of that. But I'm advocating against them being visible because it's going to be good for the game. So if you make a point that I'm pushing this narrative or making this suggestion for my own benefit, how does it align with me doing the exact opposite thing in the other thread? It doesn't, because it's not the case. And only those who prefer to see only certain pieces of puzzle instead of looking at the whole picture will just ignore that. But it's not the case, because personally, I want this game to succeed, obviously, and I want this game to retain their player base, and I want this game to live a long and happy life that is not 2 months, that is years, and I hope that it's gonna captivate me and everyone else for years as well. It's not gonna be just a random stop that you just like, okay, I play this for 2 months and go back to like whatever. And a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of people who disagree with that. First of all, I'm filtering out people who just don't like that for whatever reason, or like subjective reason or personal preferences or a certain bias that they have. It's very difficult taking into account that, a modern MMO player is a weird combination of, Dubai Gold Digger and a Chihuahua, because Dubai Gold Digger, because they often act like, I'm sorry, it may be a hot take, once again, you can feel free to hate me for that, but because they act as a spoiled kid with an enormous amount of demands that they want everything like now, and it should be perfect. And why I make a comparison with Chihuahua, because at the same time, when it comes to like a slightest degree of competition or risk in the game, they act like a Chihuahua that literally has a heart attack because someone sneezed 1 mile away, or someone shut the door too loudly, So that's not a good, first of all, it's not a good mindset for a competitive game. It's not a good mindset for MMO game, because if I didn't interact with people, I wouldn't even know that this kind of mindset exists, because the moment when I end up, whether it be in a game or IRL, in a tough situation, in a risky situation, the first thing that appears on my mind is, okay, it is what it is. What do I do? How do I deal with it? How do I adapt to that? Like, what's my decision? I'm not going like immediately switching to complaining and whining. I'm looking for a decision. I'm looking for a solution, because I know that in the vast majority of cases, in 99.9% of cases, there is always a solution. You just need to be smart enough, you just need to be creative enough, and you just need to put time and effort to find that solution. If you are struggling with that, cool, learn something new. That's like, if you just assume that there is always a way out, you will just, naturally progress and evolve as a human being, and you will, sooner or later, you will realize, like, hell yeah, it's achievable. I just needed to be more creative about it, or just act smarter. And that, not only that applies to like gaming, but it also applies to IRL. There is no point and there is no honor in complaining and whining, but there is honor in overcoming the challenges. That's it. You
Sorry,
guys are
I'm
muted. It's okay.
I'm not muted. I was just nodding my head.
I'm typing something here real quick.
Also, somebody had said something in chat that made me go look up an axe with a sniper scope on it. But it's not Discord, so I can't just post it in chat. So I won't.
And also, there are two, like, if we still have a little bit of time, because I have all the time in the world. Like, if I can grind mobs for 16 hours, I swear I can talk to you for 16 hours as well. There are two very important biases that people have. First of all is that playing on low or mid level in MMO can't be fun. Like, hell, it was fun even in Lineage, that was extremely hardcore. And when I was playing it on a classic server that was super hardcore, 3 years of playing 8 to 12 hours to reach the level cap, right? So you can imagine. I was playing it casually because I had other stuff to do, and I was never chasing the players who started a year earlier than me, because I was just enjoying it. Like, it was fun. I didn't think about all those, huge, massive goals that are, years ahead. No, I just enjoyed my journey, and that's what people need to understand, especially when it comes to a game like Ashes, that has a shit ton of things to do, and out of all that spectrum of things, there is a pretty decent chance that you will something that meets your requirements or preferences. And second thing, I also got accused of that on the forum, and it's just like so hilarious, and I don't want to sound arrogant, but when I read comments like that, I almost feel ashamed of the fact that I belong to the same biological species. Because, like, if aliens invade us tomorrow and they say, like, oh, that's a human and that's a human, I would say, no, please, I'm a different human. I'm different. I'm not them, So the thing is that a person, I will not obviously do the name dropping, called me out and said, like, look, if you play, like, let's say 18 hours a day, and someone plays 3 hours a day, he did some calculations, at least let's give him respect for that, then you will reach level cap 37 days earlier than the average player. But if you increase the leveling time, like the time it takes to level up, you will have not 37 days, but like 100 days of advantage. And I'm like, and the conclusion is that you make that suggestion because you want to have some personal benefit. And I'm like, brother, do you even realize that throughout those 37 days that I will be on the max level and you won't, even if you reach the cap level, I'll be still far ahead from you in terms of gear, in terms of skills, in terms of enchantment, in terms of, just experience when it comes to PvE and PvE. And that all comes from a bias when people think that if leveling is faster, and it takes like not 200 hours, but I don't know, 50 hours, then casual players actually have a chance to compete with the hardcore players. It's not the case, and New World is a perfect example. You can be a cap level, like a max level, you can achieve that within a week. It will not help you because you won't have that. That's it. And I'm like, like, how am I supposed to explain something to those people when their logic is so, flawed? And you can't do anything with that because they're not using the logical arguments, they're using emotional arguments. And on top of that comes the echo chamber, the hive mind, etc., etc. And that's how we end up being where we are. And that's the reason why I would never ever consider making a career in politics. Because if I ever get in politics, I want to focus on doing stuff. I don't want to explain some 18-year-old why what I'm doing makes sense and why it is important. I don't want to waste time on that because I had that experience when it comes to other jobs. It ended up being the way that I said, and now I'm no longer working with people because I just can't tolerate that. I'd rather, focus on my own stuff because it's just like I hate wasting time on that. Boom, mic drop.
Well, that's actually a good point to probably end on because I think actually we are bumping up against Neural having to bounce. So
Sure.
I do.
We will have to definitely do this again once we've all had several weeks in Alpha 2 just to sort of come back at some of these conversations. Obviously, it's an alpha state, so it's not a great representation, but I think it will be a good start. So that being said, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you? We've been posting your links all day in chat, but I want to give you the opportunity.
If they want to find me, they will find a way to find me. You're an MMO player after all. It shouldn't be that difficult.
Well, that's a great way to put it. As you have seen, Flanker's socials have been streaming in our chat this entire 2.5 hours. Well, we've gone an hour over. That's great. So we do appreciate you joining us, especially such late notice. We literally just did this today. So, and especially with you being in such a completely different time zone than us.
Yeah, it's 6:30 a.m. here.
Yes, yeah. And going through everything you're going through, we are incredibly appreciative. And yeah, everybody go check out his stuff. It's really great. YouTube and Twitch. Are you going to do anything after this, or are you going to cut your stream?
I'll see how many people I have. Like, not many, because it's like
because I was just going to send you ours. Yeah, I was just going to raid you with ours if you're.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can have an after party and discussion with people.
Sure.
That would be nice. Yeah, I would appreciate that. And once again, thank you very much for having me. Thank you for making this spontaneous thing happen. I enjoyed this very much. And once again, even though we disagreed with Diggs on many things, it was still it was still a discussion that I enjoyed because it was much more well-mannered, civil, and we actually stayed on point instead of, do whatever fuckery is going on the forum. So, yeah, I appreciate that. I like this style of good cop and bad cop, if we can put it that way. So, yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, I had to put in YouTube chat. I promise they're not taking this personally. People were asking stuff. But all right, yeah, we appreciate you. I'm going to start the raid now. And again, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We greatly appreciate it. Everyone go take this raid, go follow over to Flanker's Twitch and sub to him. So thank you. Have a good rest of your day. And everyone, next Sunday we will be here with NK, and we will have Vladis on. Actually, we're going to be 5 of us trying to have a conversation about what is the minimum viable product to get Ashes out the door and see where that takes us. And in 2 Sundays, I need you to tell me how to say, is it Ludulu? I don't know how to say Ludulu.
Ludulu or Nicker. That's his name.
Yeah, he's saying just call me. I need to hear you say it. Ludulu. Okay, Ludulu.
Yeah.
And then in 2 Sundays, we will actually have Steven on, and we will be at a different time. It will be 12 p.m. Pacific. So, thanks again, Flanker and everyone else. We will push you over to the raid now, and we will see you next Sunday.
Thank you. Diggs, see you on the forum PvP battlegrounds.
Yes. Thanks, it was fun.
Thank you.
I'm just going to start bar stuff, so...
okay, I don't really know how raids work. Like, like
Shoulda
what is
came
going
to
to
ya.
happen. Yeah, I saw someone actually raided me in the middle of the stream, but I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't have a chance to reply to that, so I'm like,
Yeah. Now you got that from Lude Lloyd. Yeah. So,
oh,
all right, guys. I am going to jump off here, and enjoyed your time. Everybody's
was
watching
fun.
you now. So,
okay, thank you so much.
see y'all.
See ya.
Later.